Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to review Huntdown, the retro-style side-scroller from developers Easy Trigger Games and Tommy Gustafson. The game was published by Coffee Stain. I've wanted to play this game since its release in 2020, and I'm finally getting around to it. You control one of 3 bounty hunters as you clean up city streets infested with 4 different gangs. Each gang's turf contains 5 levels that all have their own bosses or bounties. Blast your way through 20 total stages in what amounts to a dead ringer for 16-bit action games. You're a hired gun who doesn't play favorites between the corpos and the street-level power players. It's all about working for the highest bidder, at least so the game's story says. You only ever serve one master, a female executive who delivers intel on each gang. That's disappointing since I wanted the story arc to show both sides, but the story in games like this is not a deal breaker. I just wish creators that invoke aesthetics like RoboCop's understood the authoritarian underpinnings of it, and I'm not sure they always do. It's not just punks in mohawks blowing things up and dealing drugs. Anyways, on to the actual game. The moment-to-moment gameplay reminds me a bit of the Terminator or Contra off the top of my head, but honestly there are likely dozens of games I would agree with for a comparison here. The approach is a fairly straight-down-the-middle design that gives you just enough guns and enemy variety to keep things fun. The game also controls well and has an above-average soundtrack. The visuals are mostly composed of the usual exaggerated city overrun by gangs look, with a lot of aforementioned mohawks and jean vests as well. The loading screens remind me of the artwork from Road Rash. As expected, each gang has its own theme and style. One gang's members dress up in hockey gear, another gang is really into hot rods and demolition derby. These differences distinguish the different areas of the map, but the theming was never as vivid or eye-catching as I would have liked. For example, based on the game's dialogue, the gang with hockey gear sounds like they might have a headquarters in an arena, which would have been a great original setting. Instead, it's just standard subway or sewer levels. Unfortunately, all of the in-game visuals are like this, different enough, but just barely, so I was left wanting a bit more in that department. Almost everything is just concrete. All 3 characters largely move the same, and their starting weapons are only slightly different from one another. You can switch bounty hunters on the same save file, but you have to start a level, pause the game, then select Swap Bounty Hunter from the pause menu, which will cause you to abandon the level and start over with your new bounty hunter that you chose. I'm not sure why that's the only way to do it, but no real harm done, I guess. Between levels, the dialogue plays out differently depending on which character you're playing as, but none of it is particularly interesting. Each level's boss has a dossier you can read as well, but it's just some lackluster flavor text. I thought that would have been a great chance to foreshadow the kind of boss you'd be facing, or maybe hint at a weak point, so it feels like a missed opportunity. The game's world building and story are barely serviceable, but it's mostly just there to get us to the fun stuff. One nice mechanic they use here is your ability to duck into doorways by pressing up. You can avoid bullets this way, and enemies will do the same to defend themselves. It's a nice wrinkle, but that's pretty much the most innovative thing about Huntdown. If the game's goal is to be a safe but amusing throwback, it definitely succeeds. I was just looking for a little more personality and a couple more surprises to make it stand out. In my review of Shinobi Art of Vengeance, I talked about how the bonus stages livened things up and were a nice change from the standard gameplay. I feel like Huntdown could have used some levels like that, or some genuine set pieces. I thought I was definitely going to get into a drag race with the Heat Seekers gang, or I thought maybe there would be a hockey minigame with the Misconducts gang. Nothing like that here among all the standard levels though, which I think makes the journey as a whole a bit bland. There isn't much in the way of an ending either. What kept me satisfied here is the familiar gameplay. If you want a no-frills experience with old-school sprites, this is a great game to buy. I'm replaying it to some extent, but the whole package is fairly shallow. It's fun, and there are 3 in-game goals for each level, such as not dying or finding 3 secrets. I can't help but feel like there should be more here, though. I think it's great that all 20 levels have a boss, but when the levels themselves are short and most bosses feel a bit generic, it's kind of a wash. Based on expectations, I'm happy I bought this game and finally got to play it. There seems to be a steady positive drumbeat for this game in retro circles, and that played a part in me deciding to purchase it as well. However, this is a bit of a tepid endorsement since almost everything is fine or average in my opinion. Thankfully, the gameplay is solidly fun. The bosses I did like were pretty clever too. The game gets the most important parts right, even if it doesn't offer anything new. Despite being able to beat it in a day or two and the low bar that it clears, Huntdown is a good time blasting bad guys like it's 1990. It'll give you your money's worth and meet your expectations. I just don't think it'll exceed them. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review. I actually got this game in a buy one get one free sale, and the other game was Neon Inferno by Zenovia Interactive. Not familiar with them, not too familiar with the game, but it looked awesome, so I hope to review that soon as well. Thanks so much for watching this, and I hope to see you next time.